Michael.
Good evening.
Yeah, happy Labor Day. Before we do anything, let me make sure to extend you the happy Labor Day congratulations, Mike.
Yeah, happy Labor Day. I'm glad. Yeah, football season's here, man. You know, we got all hyped up for football season, and this is now the 4th year in a row. I feel the exact same way. The exact same way for 4 years in a row. This one actually feels a lot more like 21 against UCLA, though.
Yeah, for sure. Let's let a few people trickle in the live chat. Pot of Gold, welcome back. I'm Brett. I'm here with Mike. We're patiently waiting for Dre to hop in the chat.
Dre is not getting any communication for this. We're gonna proactively, we're gonna establish this now. As he gets into the chat, we are not going to identify it. We're just going to keep asking for him to get in the chat, and he's just never going to get in. So we'll see what happens there.
I think that's fair. I hope I can hold up my end of the deal. Hit us up on Twitter at Pot of Gold, at Gold Mike, Grant the intern. Not even going to say he's on vacation because that poor dude, the intern, had to spend all day at Disney today. Like, you thought you had it shitty
before, you know,
having to go to the grocery on your day off or having to go to the in-laws for some burgers. It's like, no, Grant had to spend it with Florida State fans at the Magic Kingdom, at whatever the fuck goes on in Disney. Like, what an absolute nightmare.
Well, so, you know, what's crazy about Grant's situation is that he literally was trying to make us feel bad for his situation
all the whole time.
I've been on vacation all week in Mexico. I got to fly into Orlando instead of going home. I got to go to Disney World, and then I got to go sit in some beautiful suites against fucking Florida State. And it's like, oh, boo-hoo. But let me tell you something. That's a tough scene right now. We feel for the intern, producer. He had to sit through that, and he was a man of little words last night, little communication, but he was there. He was absolutely reading, and the minute we asked for him, he was in the chat. He was there. He just had nothing to say. And then we thought he'd be able to hop on, and no, he's got an extra day at Disney. So, and his whole family, by the way, is Florida State, like his married family. Yeah.
Yeah. And the biggest winner of the weekend is Grant's cell phone battery, because he was texting us early with all the details. Like, any person he saw, he was telling us about the hospitality of the RV section, and I was like, this dude's battery's going to be dead at halftime. And he was texting us like in his Uber an hour after the game. So that's enough Grant talk. We got some, you know, we've been going for a few minutes here, the live chat picking up, so I guess it's finally I think it's time to get into it, Michael.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said here, obviously. I mean, I'll just put it this way, and this is a very familiar feeling for all LSU fans for the last 4 seasons. And I don't want to get into the why the hell are we scheduling these games any longer. I mean, we're locked away to USC. We've got back-to-backs with Clemson. I mean, it's going to be more of the same. So be fucking prepared to play a game opener. Okay? We'll get into that in a little bit. But you get settled in. We're counting down the clock. All eyes on this game. ABC. I hate the term national television. Everything's national television. But this was truly an ABC nationally televised night game with no other true games on the whole day. All eyes on us. And honestly, dude, I was beating my pillow with excitement at the first play. You know, you see it. You got Aaron Anderson in motion. You got Trey Bradford. We got Contravious right out of the gate. Contraford, right out of the gate, gets a swing pass. He's moving. Next play, you hit Mason Taylor. You're moving, and I'm thinking to myself, 2 plays, 3 plays in, like, this is it. Like, this is the next tier of the offense. We're humming, and I very carefully did not put out a tweet against Florida State fans. So like, let me wait till at least a couple drives here. But then I didn't have to wait much longer. It was literally like immediately going for it on fourth down and just getting stuffed and stuffed and stuffed. And it was like, who do we think we are? Like,
I
and
am.
like that's, and I think that is the biggest takeaway was like the first drive of like you get a couple good plays, you move in the ball, and then you immediately find out it's just more of the same. Like what wasn't working, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're going to keep trying it again and trying it again and trying it again. It's like, guys, this is not the time to figure out who we are. You need to be able to put all of your arsenal out there for this one game. If you want to neuter Harold Perkins, let's neuter him against Grambling and
Yeah.
Mississippi State.
Test the linebacker waters week 2.
It was
Yeah.
all of this whole like, oh, this is who we are now. This is who we're going to be. And let's go from this play sheet and let's just see if it works against this team that looks fucking really good. That's probably going to walk their way into the playoffs with the rest of this bullshit schedule they have. Mind you, Clemson is hanging on by a thread against Duke. Like the point is, it was too, and this is the first shot I'm going to take on Brian Kelly. It was way too much of a, we're just going to show up and see what happens. We are who we are. We're going to show up and see what happens. While Florida State was like, hey, if we get this win, if we punch LSU in the mouth, we're writing our ticket to the playoffs. Where LSU was just like, we can afford a loss. And they acted like that. They didn't throw it all out there. They didn't say, hey, guess what? It's not working. Let's put Harold Perkins off the edge and just go get it. See ball, hit ball. If that's what it was last season, that's what it needs to be this second half. And I'm harping on one area, but it was the whole theme of it. There was no creativity. There was no like, hey, where we finished off the season, we're going to build on it. It was like, oh, back to square one, and let's figure out, let's use this test on a nationally televised Labor Day weekend against Florida State to figure out who we are and what our weaknesses are.
Yeah, it was forever growing up an LSU fan. We've played in a lot of these week 1 games. We were probably not the first to do it, but we kind of jumped on it pretty early. We went to the UNC game, went to the Oregon game, and then just remember watching those games, and you were like, oh man, like we got the dudes out on the field right now. Our team is the one that has the dudes, and we're probably going to take a 15-yard penalty because we're going to hit someone so hard it's going to look
and
like
that's fine because we're going to bully people around for 4 quarters.
And we, the infamous Les Miles hammer and the nail game against Florida, there was no doubt last night who the nail was. I mean, Florida State kind of just beat us into submission. And it was one of those things that it was just like, I don't know that I kind of agree with all the stuff you said, but for me, we just got bullied at the line of scrimmage, which didn't allow us to do anything. I thought, the highlights of it, maybe Mekhi Wingo was looking good for a little bit, but then he kind of disappeared. We allowed Jordan Travis to do whatever he wanted all night. If it weren't for 2 or 3 drops, they would have never not converted a third down. But it was just one of those things very early on, like first drive, sure, got out of the cannon. And then it's like you get stuffed 4 times, 6 times, however many it happens, turn around, and it was just like, well, we're not the bullies on the field tonight. They were in our face mask every fucking tackle, and it was like early on, you're like, fuck these dudes, we're going to show them something. And we didn't. We didn't.
Well, here's one point I'll make is it is impossible to run the football when you have 0 threat to throw the football down the field. Zero threat. Now, that's not saying that Emory Jones didn't get pushed around. He did. Frazier got pushed around. The right side of the offensive line got pushed around, but the left side didn't. Let's get creative and do something other than just zone reads when they know exactly what's coming here. Now, I'll make the point about stretching the field, right? And being able to be a little bit more creative. We were not able to do that. I know we had drops. I understand that we had drops, but there was nothing creative in anything that we did to try to get the ball down the field and make plays other than our basic hitches and our cross the field out routes that they gave us. Yeah. I'm so sick of well, look at all the yards we got and we were able to do whatever we wanted between the 20s. They dared us to throw the football, right? They gave us that shit, and when it was time to lock in and make you score a touchdown, you weren't getting it done, right? And just a perfect example, I forgot what point in the game it was, where it was like 3 plays in a row. We tried to hit Neighbors in the corner of the end zone, and Jaden throws it right to the back of the DB, and then he goes
Opposite of
back
what
to
they
him
wanted.
again and again. And it's like Florida State was just like, dude, keep doing it. You can't make that throw. It doesn't matter how good your receivers are. You're not making that throw. We're gonna man you up. We're gonna stick on an island because we don't trust you to make that throw, and we're gonna bring the house every play. Try to run it. You're not gonna be able to run the football. We're gonna get in your head and we're gonna rattle you. And we were
And
rattled.
the other side of the football to that is they get a matchup with Coleman on Major Burns, and it's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, throw it over here," and it gives them a chance,
Throw
and
it,
it's
throw
like
it against the guy with the neck roll.
yep, absolutely. It's like and Major Burns was in good position right there, and he just got beat by a better player. It's like, the thing that stuck out to me the most from going from the pregame pod to watching the game last night is we kinda talked about the wide receivers, and I said Harold Perkins was gonna be the best player every time they were on the field. Nope.
Neutralized. He did
Nope.
nothing. Harold Perkins did absolutely. He was eliminated from the football game. He tried to play a spy,
We
and
out-schemed our own guys.
exactly. And when he tried to play a spy, it was like, okay, cool. You can hang back behind the line of scrimmage. I'll run right for 3 steps, make you go that direction, and then flip it around and drop the ball off right behind you because now you're caught off guard and you're in a misstep. And that was from the first drive we saw that happen. You have to be able to think outside the box and say, you know what? Maybe this is a great idea. Obviously, we want to do what's best for this kid and his future in the NFL, but it's not going to win us this game right now. So let's
Is
fucking
that
pin our ears back and go.
I need someone to explain to me how that's better for him in the NFL. That's what I
And
need.
that's Brian Kelly's explanation was, this is a guy that's going to have to make his money in the league as a Mike backer. And,
That's not your job. I'm
right.
sorry.
And at the end of the
Jordan's paying
day,
you and, like, it's just, look, this is I'm still I'm still, like, on the Brian Kelly bandwagon. It's like, we can go down the list of why. 1, who the fuck else are you gonna get? Like, what are we gonna do? 3 years later, go from Ed Orgeron, Brian Kelly to whom? 2, buyout money is gonna start being a thing in the past because wouldn't you rather put your money into the collective to get players than to have to
yeah.
pay Ed Orgeron and Brian Kelly to be on a beach somewhere? It's like, keep going down the list, but, like, not even all that. I still believe that Brian Kelly's a really good CEO of a program. I think it's like I don't even know the exact comment, but he's like, we're not the team that I thought we were. And it's like I think they thought they were gonna roll in with that tiger and those 3 letters across their helmet and be able to out athlete, and that was just not the case. I thought
But the problem is like based on what? And I think
I agree.
that's like
Agree.
what like if you knew all camp that like the DBs were a problem and that we have a chance that doesn't matter. It does not matter how good the scheme is. If on one you're not going to be able to stop them from catching the football,
And not pressure
thankfully,
them.
and not pressure them, give them all day, right? So like that's the thing that we neutralized Perkins where we gave them an extra 5 seconds and took another player off the field. And so why would you not just gung ho get after the quarterback? Sure, he might scramble,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, like he's not going to scramble away from Perkins. So make him throw it up and have those jump balls that we ended up having to deal with anyway. And so you're just double doozying yourself there. But with that being said, like I don't want to dive right into it, but why are your best players not on the football field? And like playing for the long game and establishing a culture. It's like thinking about Harold Perkins and his draft position, thinking about the mental well-being of Denver Harris and developing him along. It's like, dude, all of that's great, but if you lose your opener, it has such a negative impact on the trajectory of your program. Is it worth it? I don't think so. Like you're telling me that Denver Harris maybe could not have played as well as Deuce Chestnut there. Like, yeah, I get it. Deuce Chestnut, he was draped all over the guys, but the guy was 6'7".
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what are we doing here? And sure, he had a pick, but like, if you can't catch that pick, which was thrown right to you, like, you don't need to be on this football team. They're not that good, like, period.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest thing going into this fall camp is like, yeah, we hit it on Mekhi Gardner, we hit it on Jared Bernard Converse, but like, we're just kind of crossing our fingers for Zy Alexander and Deuce Chestnut here. And I mean, you whiff on the kid from IMG who's sitting in the stadium, fucking taking pictures and about to commit to either LSU or Bama, but we're not going to get into bidding wars. Well, we get a kid in Denver Harris, and you know what? He's a little late to practice and he's causing some issues. We're going to bench him. Like, all of those things, like, I understand the point of it, but you have to have a backup plan. And if your
Yeah.
backup plan is like, oh, we're going to have some growing pains against Florida State, well, then you just lost the fourth game again as your opener.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, why don't you try to help out your DBs a little bit and get after the fucking quarterback? It's like, look, to say all this, Florida State, I think we can agree, was better than we thought. They were super
Absolutely.
experienced. We threw a lot of that out the window and said, well, like, Brian Kelly's got this team humming now. Look at all these player interviews. Everybody's smirking, knowing what they got. It's like Florida State was that team. Like, I thought we were going to come out like Florida State and just put it on them. But it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just,
We played scared. Florida State played as if they knew they were the better team from the
yeah.
jump, and we played like, oh shit, they're pretty good.
And
So
they
let's
look like the team. Look, man, I like our dudes. I'm sure if I was standing next to him, I'd be like, "Holy shit, Major Burns is jacked." But we look like fucking. We got corners all over the field. I thought Andre Sam looked great. Like, he was probably, you can throw around some guys on the defensive line that had some moments, but I thought he looked like one of our best players out there last night. But he doesn't look physically imposing. Florida State's got these bowling balls that they're rolling around out there. We're bouncing off everybody. It's like Mason Taylor was literally the only one that like truck sticked anyone all night.
Yeah, no, and that was the problem. I mean, obviously, Mekhi Wingo had a heck of a game, right? But he can't do it all on his own. And I'm not one of these guys that sits in this boat of like, oh, if we had Mason Smith, it would have been a different game. No, it wouldn't have. No, it wouldn't have. I think he would have been a big disruptor, and he would have, had Jordan Travis out of his element again. But guess what? There was no one there to clean that up. We
Yeah.
were sitting back, spying the guy, giving him an extra 5 seconds against our terrible defensive backs. So it and I know we're harping on defense this whole time, but honestly, like, they played okay I mean, both sides of the ball played pretty good football up until mid third quarter. And then it turned into this timid, like, we're trying to protect ourselves. We're not trying to like, there was no winning instinct in the second half. When the chips were on the line, when it was time to make a play, no one made a play. And Florida State just continued to grind and make plays. And it came down to that fourth down play late in the third quarter when they were like, you know what, let's put it all on the line here and let's end this. And they ended it right there. They
Yep.
they they got a big chunk play on fourth down. They ended up scoring. I think it was like maybe the next play, 2 plays later. And it turns out that, we rolled over and decided to take it easy and not have a killer instinct. And they had a killer instinct and made a fucking physical statement against
Yep.
LSU, an absolute physical statement. That is my biggest gripe from this game. Not that Jaden Daniels didn't throw the ball down the field well, not that, Kyron Lacey had a drop on third down that could have taken it to the house. Like,
Not to point at one play, but my God, did the game turn at that moment.
sure, absolutely. But like, as a whole,
Would it have mattered? Probably not. It didn't seem we could have played for another hour, and I don't know if we would have gotten a stop.
right, but like, as a whole, we could smell that, like, oh, they have momentum and they're out physicaling us. And you know what? We'll just have to go back to the drawing board and just kind of ride out this season, and hopefully we can win out and play better. It's like there was still so much game left and we gave up. Like, there was no killer instinct there. There was no trying anything different. There was
Yep.
no trying, there was no adjustment. There was
Nussmeier.
I'm not ready to do that. I don't think this is all on Jaden Daniels
Well,
here. I
but the
think
problem
Jaden
the problem is, and it's like, Guys, I've been on the Nuss bus since only thing I knew was his rivals page, alright? Like, I've been on the bus. The problem is that Jaden Daniels is the only one who can kind of fucking get shit going. We have no running game, and him being able to bust a 45-yard run at any given time is something that I think this offense needs. Also, maybe Nuss is spry and getting after it, but it's like we might have gotten him killed if we put him back there in that game. It's like I just don't.
Yeah, and I think that's going to play out. I think eventually, if Jaden Daniels, if we know we're comfortable by saying if Jaden Daniels is the true reason that we're losing football games, Nuss will play. Nuss
Yeah,
will play, and I don't think that's up for debate. Everyone understands that. Now, with that being said, there is some things that Jaden did not do well last night, and I
yeah.
don't want this like for whatever reason, Jaden's got this like protective barrier over him that like no matter what,
People
you
run to
you
defend him.
can't say
Yeah,
he did anything wrong. And it's like that's just not true. Like Jaden Daniels did not have a perfect game. Is it his fault we lost? No, absolutely not. I think he actually had a pretty good game up until a point, and he was doing too much. He does not trust his team.
yep.
Like the minute there's a drop, it's like, oh, well, this is now all on me and I got to figure this shit out. Or the minute the first read is covered, like I don't trust the O-line to hold up long enough to let me kind of scan the field. So I'm out of here. And I'm
That's
gonna
That's what hurt with the Lacy play. That hurt me so much is that Daniel sat there and went 1,
mhm.
2, snaps to 3, maybe even 4, and rifles one in there. And it's like that might be a touchdown play. And that's like such a momentum builder for like what the offense can do because we saw flashes of it. It really pissed me off that we schemed up this great play. One, it's like, did Aaron Anderson get put in the doghouse? I don't know. Did we see that he looked like the lights were a little bright at the moment for him and sat him to the side? Is Chris Hilton alive? Does he have a pulse? It's like there's so many.
That's the thing is where are all of our dudes that we heard about all camp outside of this first unit,
Yeah.
right? Like let's throw something else out there. Let's try something different. I mean, Anderson did catch a pass and run down the sideline. He got his ass thrown into the damn bleachers, but like after he muffed the punt, that was it for him. He was done.
Yeah, but it's like, all fall camp, I'm sure Florida State was seeing out of practice, like, "Oh my god, this dude's speed, oh my god." So it's like, they see him running across the line of scrimmage, and it's like, "Well, look at him," and we sneak a guy out, and it's like, "Hell yeah, we game planned one up." I don't know that we game planned up another play the whole game.
No,
Everything else was like, "Hey, we're gonna run our triple tight end option here," which I like, I think it helps, but it's like, it can't be the only thing you do.
no, but like what Jaden does well is he has a threat to run the football, get him out in space on the move, and to throw the football. Like this whole like having him hang out in the pocket and just kind of read, like that's not his game.
Yeah.
And we're not playing like if you're gonna go with Jaden Daniels because of his legs, then you have to play to his strengths. And we're not doing that. We're taking everything in so tight. We're having these long developing plays and we have no running threat because Jaden is not pushing the ball down the field and taking those risks, right? And so everything is brought down in the box, and then we don't change. We don't get in his ear and say, "Hey, let it fucking rip," right? Like
Well, but when he does, then Brian Thomas, who, everyone talks about as the next big name, can't bring it down.
he needed to catch that ball, but that was a fucking duck.
I
Like
agree.
wide
I
like
agree.
lead the
But
dude, get some air.
but
I know, catch the fucking football. Help your quarterback out just a little bit. And that's what we have not been able to do that. We have not been able to help our quarterback out whenever he truly does take those chances. Hey, I'm going to let it rip. I might not have a great arm, but fucking come down with it and get us in the red zone. Kyron Lacy, I drilled it to you, put a
on the
pattern
numbers.
right on the numbers, just like last year with Kayshawn, right? We tried to force shit to Kayshawn and he was hitting him in the hands, drilling it down the middle, and he couldn't come up with it. It's the same type of vibe of just like, I got to do everything now on my own and drill it to these guys. It becomes such a game of, well, this is Jaden Daniels' offense, and whatever Jaden does is as far as we're gonna get. And like it's limited based on what we're able to do. Like there was no creativity. It was the same shit over and over again. So something is wrong. Like if you're not able to open it up and do things different, get him on some rollouts. If Mason Taylor is your biggest threat on that quote unquote triple option that we run, like then let's do that and a passing attack. Let's get him rolling out there and then have the threat of running.
Or maybe just once put in one of those tight ends that we talked about having an incredible fall camp, but they're really more of a blocking guy. Let that guy hit verse once, like help out the right side of the line who's getting obliterated. It felt like we were doing a scrimmage in Tiger Stadium. It's like, well, guys, you're just gonna have to figure this out. We're gonna go through some growing pains. It's like, can we like dial something up? Can we draw something in the sand so that like maybe Daniels can like sit there for a second and throw one? And all of that to say, it's like going through rewatching the condensed game this morning, it's like LSU was in that game for so long. It's like it's easy to forget with all the shit shooting yourself in the foot in the first half. You have a lead against a team who's kind of been bullying you, and you're still in the game in the third quarter, and then it just goes completely off the rails to where you're the laughing stock of Twitter for 48 hours. It's just it happened fast.
Until Alabama runs off Texas next week, this is going to be the LSU shit train.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we need Texas to win. That everyone forget about it. But like all of that being said, and this could bite me in the ass. They could end up losing to NC State again and not be this great team that they looked. But it's like that looked like one of the better teams we're going to play in a while. They had a ton of
What's their
experience.
weakness? What's like what are their weaknesses? I don't see one. I
And
don't see a weakness.
there wasn't one against us that we could exploit. Their biggest weakness is they cared too much, got a few penalties. But it's like I don't know, man. LSU played kind of clean. We didn't have a ton of look. I don't know what to say about punts anymore. It's like I don't
Oh
know.
God.
It feels like
It's
that's
it is a microcosm of what this team is. We try so hard on one thing, right? Like we get so focused on like, hey, you gotta field punts, you gotta field punts, you gotta field punts, you gotta stretch the field, you gotta stretch the field. Jaden's got to push the ball down the field. It's like I really think that gets embedded into our philosophy, and we forget that we have a fucking game to play.
yeah.
And like, let the dudes just go be dudes. Let Harold Perkins just go be Harold Perkins. Let fucking Jaden Daniels just be Jaden Daniels. Like, let's just play fucking football instead of acting like we're some NFL squad that's going to come out here and just go down a fucking play sheet. And
Getting
eventually,
too
like,
cute.
the tide's going to turn our way and like we're going to pull it out. And we've got, you know, X number of weeks now until Alabama to kind of really figure out who we are, develop Denver Harris, get him out there, you know, get, you know, Lance Hurd in the box now at tackle and condense Emory down. We got a good running attack that's balanced. Hey, we get Diggs back. And hey, guess what? We got a little pop in the running game. Oh, Caleb Jackson's now turned the corner and he's developing. Oh, we got Mason Smith back. But like none of that shit matters if you're not going to win the first fucking football game.
Yeah.
And I think that like that realization, it happened last season, but like happening this year with all the momentum and everything on your side going into the year, you fumbled that badly and you were embarrassed. And then like you could see it all over Brian Kelly's face and Jaden Daniels' face in the press conference after the game. It's like we thought, you know, I don't know who we thought we were. We thought we were the two-time defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs, just going to come in here and just play a simple game and get out of here. Where that's on us not being fucking prepared. And I think a lot of it is going on the players, you know, and if you're going to fight during the offseason, you're looking at a 500 season, like get used to that. You know, it's like, well, have we done anything to try to change that? Like, obviously we saw a lot of weaknesses in this fall camp and we went into this game not changing or preparing anything. Or is this truly a case of we just haven't fucking recruited well at all? And this whole transfer portal thing where we can pick up the pieces, we didn't do it as good as Florida State. We didn't do it as good as Colorado, right? We didn't do it as good as everybody else that was able to hit the portal. And if that's what we had to rely on because we couldn't get it done with the high school kids, then we're fucked.
I still think that Brian Kelly was very surprised, and look, man, I think it hasn't really been said, and this is not an excuse, but it's like, we also went week 1 into a pretty much hostile away game environment, and it's like we kinda
So
got
dumb.
lost in it, you know? And it's like,
It's an away
it's
game.
not
It was an away game against one of the best teams in the nation, and you're trying to work the kinks out on the road in that type of environment again.
Yeah, and it's just like, but it's interesting to kinda go back to Brian Kelly saying, "Oh, I don't know if this is a national championship." Like, 2024 is
Yeah.
where we really feel comfortable, and it's like, okay, maybe he knew a little bit of the writing on the wall, but it's just one of those things, man. It's just, it sucks to go in and lay an egg and kinda just give up at the end, just completely getting run over. And I think this will be a good wake up call. It's like, if you can keep those guys bought in and do it and realize that's what you have to play to, it could be a benefit. Now, like, every year we can't just keep losing a game and being like, well, that's the benefit. Like, we're going to learn from this. But it's like, I don't know, man. It didn't feel like we were the team with the Joes on the team, or the pros. We had a bunch of Joes out there. Now maybe that's just compared to Florida State. I think, we're still up to Alabama. We still should be a favorite in every game and probably win those games. But it's there's a lot of question marks.
Auburn's going to be a tough game. Texas A&M is going to be a tough game. Bama, obviously, good luck, against them on the road. Same type of environment, same type of dudes. Hopefully, we've got some stuff figured out by then. But like,
There's opportunities though, man. There's opportunities for a freshman like Sampson to come in and take reps. There's an opportunity for, hopefully there's an opportunity for someone like Whit Weeks or somebody to be able to come in and play linebacker. So maybe we can put Harold Perkins back in what makes him a Heisman candidate.
But I think that's the most frustrating part is like that there's some of those pieces that you can move around, but like we were so unwilling to do it against Florida State because our ass was so tight of like, ooh, they might be good. So let's clamp up, let's get timid, and let's just let's be safe. Let's be
Were
safe
you
here.
were you surprised that Hurd didn't get a rep, or do you think they didn't want to just completely shell this dude 12 minutes into his career?
I think it was that. I think it was
It didn't look great on that right side for a hot minute. And
no, and it
look, man,
wasn't just Verse. It wasn't just moving Verse
no.
over. It was Paxton. I mean, it was everybody on that right side was getting pushed around and bullied. I thought if anything, maybe get hurt in there on some of these fourth down and shorts and just fucking hat on hat, like just drive a dude and hopefully we can pick up a yard. But like we couldn't even do that. I understand you don't want to throw them in the fire and fuck them up, but it's O line. I mean, like it's not
Yeah.
and I say that as a former O lineman. It's a very important position, but like you're gonna take those licks no matter what happens. Like
Yeah.
it's not like you're the quarterback where you're getting thrown in the fire or a corner on an island with the receiver. You have help. You have a guard. You slide Emory Jones in there and you got a tandem there. And I don't say the whole game, but like on some of those short yardage plays, absolutely put him in there and even out that O line strength. Are we going to see
When
Hurd moving forward? Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When I officially realized, and this was, I think, decently early in the game, but when I kind of realized that I was not confident in LSU winning this game was when I was hoping Kyron Lacy's foot was out of bounds on the 10-yard line, because I could not imagine getting stuffed at the goal line 4 times again after doing
Yeah,
it on the first possession. It might have been the
I
second
was
possession of the game.
yeah, and it was I think it was, one of Lacey's great plays, right? Where he
It
took it down
was
the
second drive.
sideline and he got down to the 1-yard line and
But I
Sam
was terrified. I had no
immediately I was
confidence
like,
in us getting the
"Fuck.
ball.
We
It it felt
that
like
was our shot to get it in the end zone."
it felt like I was watching Miles Brennan behind and in the shotgun against Mizzou all over again. Like, we're not getting this ball in. We have 0 chance to get a yard here. And, they punched it in, obviously, whatever. But it was like, that's when I knew. I was like, I don't know that I like our chances anymore. And I don't know, man.
But once the game was over, when they took their official lead, once they had that touchdown lead late in the third, you could tell Florida State had like a nice sense of like, whew, okay, now we can take some shots, right? Like now we can do those one-on-one balls. And they did. But even into the fourth quarter, Jordan Travis was playing as if his life was on the line. Like
Yeah.
that fight and that fire of just like, no, this is my fucking Heisman this year. This is my team to lead to the national championship. Like they wanted it so much more. And that was the soul crushing experience for me, was that they just truly, like, LSU looked like they didn't believe they had it in them to fight back. It's like, oh well, we're gonna pick up some slack in the next coming weeks and figure it out. Where the game is still up for grabs here, and you had no answer for it. There was no adjustments. There was no answer for it.
Obviously, no disrespect to Will Campbell. I thought he played a good game, but sitting there, I was like, makes more sense why we gave number 7 to a left tackle. You know,
Yeah,
I was all on board for it. I was not one of those like it should be a skill position, but as you're sitting there, you're like, we don't have a number 7. We should
yeah.
put it in the back pocket and maybe hand it out later in the year or something because it's just I don't know, man. I think we overestimated, and once again, I think it'll even out. I don't think we're just gonna look like this every week because we didn't. It wasn't like we couldn't line up. It wasn't like we couldn't stop getting pass interferences or jumping off sides or having too many men on the field. Like we played it mostly somewhat clean. We were just outmatched. The guy across from our guy, the advantage was in Florida State's favor in far too many spots. Where we have advantages, one of them standing on the sidelines in glasses, the other one's just hanging out at linebacker. Literally, the only time I remember him making a play, obviously throwing the guy down on the 1 on the 4th down, but it was like the stuff for one of Florida State's only punts. It was like a Travis started running, and it was like even then, it was like Greg Brooks was the one that stuffed him. Harold Perkins was just kind of around and gave a good hit. It's just
Harold
I never
Perkins had
saw him.
Harold Perkins had two plays that could have been on SportsCenter top tens. Both of them were taken away by LSU players. The first
Oh
one
my God.
was Savion Jones, who looks like a ballerina. Like I love Savion Jones. I think he's a very intense dude, but he was sucked inside so many times and was out of position. Open field tackling. He looked like a bumbling, stumbling idiot. And there was a play, the double pass, the trick play. Harold Perkins sniffed it out, had the dude stuffed for 15, 20 yards, and he got cut off. He got blocked by Savion Jones, and that was over. That was a play there. And then on the other side of the field, whenever we had incredible pressure and Jordan Travis looked like an idiot just throwing the ball straight to the linebackers, and Greg Brooks just jumps in front of Harold Perkins and doesn't come down with the pick while
So
Harold was like
unfortunate.
eyeballing it there. Like those were two plays where Harold Perkins could have potentially strip sacked that double play. We've seen
Yeah.
it happen a million times. He could have had a pick six right by the goal line. Like there was plays, but we were in our own way. And it was the same thing the whole night, in our own way. The minute he had an opportunity to do something, he had no choice but to do it all on his own. And he was out of position making those type of plays. And then we finally have some balls and like line him up on the edge. And he was just, it's like he wasn't used to that anymore. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know he got by the guy once or twice, but like for the most part, he was getting bullied.
Look, man, if you just and you know, throw Omar Spates in this too, but it's like if you're a Duke fan and you flip on the game on Sunday night and you're not locked into college football, you have no idea. Like our linebackers look non-existent. I
Yeah.
mean, you would not know that Harold Perkins was freshman All-American, whatever, name the accolades, outside crazy dark horse for a Heisman. You would have no clue, none.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing. There was some bright spots with a couple players. Will Campbell looked great. He
Yeah.
he did get beat, I think,
That one
once.
time, right?
Yeah, he got
Like,
beat once, but for the most part, like
we'll give you one.
running the ball, he was mauling people, right?
Yeah.
No one else could do that. I think Dellinger played a good game at left guard. The center had consistent snaps. That's all we could ask for at this point against Florida State coming into the season. But Frazier and Emory Jones were outmatched on the right side, no matter who was against them. And I think it was one of the fourth down plays where we tried our bread and butter, our little play to Mason Taylor, and Emory completely whiffs on the linebacker blitzing
Yep.
in, and it just
No,
blows it up. And it's like the O line for the most part was dominated outside of Will Campbell.
yeah,
And
we look, man. I got on that horse, and I think once again, this O-line is not gonna probably face another D-line like that until we get to November. But I was all on the train of like Brian Kelly's got the O-line. This is what he does. We're here. Not gonna be a problem. It was like, in my opinion, that was the biggest problem. I agree. Daniels could have played better, could have done things. Play calling could have been better. But once again, you watch and these games, they're not going against elite guys like Florida State, but you watch everyone around the country with the quarterback just hanging out in the pocket, just scanning the field, and it feels like every time somebody's getting through our line. It just doesn't feel the same watching as other teams.
yeah, and again, it's back and forth, and like you just mentioned, like I know it's a lot to do with Jaden Daniels not having the faith or the trust to just let it rip and make some plays down the field. Once you see that threat is not there, they dared us to do it, and we couldn't do it. It was like at that point we were mentally rattled, right? Where
Yep.
there's too many men in the box, and this is not going to work. We don't have, and we don't need Jaden Daniels to be elite. He's not going to be elite at that, but it's just that missing piece to open up that box a little bit. We have no threat of doing it until we can make a fucking catch,
Well,
until we can make that play.
you kind of brought it up earlier, and it's like the biggest thing that I was disappointed with Daniels was that drive where it was like, hey, our number one, our guy who we say is a first round draft pick is getting solo covered. Let's just give him an opportunity. And it was like pulling teeth trying to do that when a couple drives earlier, it might have been the first drive of the game. It's like he makes a sick catch in the back of the end zone. His foot was just out of bounds. He went too far back, but it's like
Talk about that end zone, like
disgusting.
cover, like
Absolutely.
how are we going to paint 4
Purple on
yards
purple end
outside
zones.
of it, and then we're going to go with the white after? Like, what are we doing? Not
It's
that that's the
yeah.
problem, but like that was so stupid.
But it was just one of those things. It's like, throw it up in the air, man. Just let him jump and go get a ball or be on the same page. It was like that shit that kind of got me.
Give him a chance. Just give him a chance. And like the fact that they went back and forth arguing, just like with fuck, I just blanked on his name. Uh, eight
Neighbors,
neighbors.
Malik.
Neighbors going back to him and being like, dude, get the ball, like throw it up to me, throw it up to
Tough
me. And then we
dude.
did it again. And he does the same thing again. It's just like at that point, that defense is feasting. That defense, that defensive coordinator is like, oh, we're done. We got it. Like
Oh, I can just
they're
play man across the board. If he can't
yes.
get it to his best guy, what are we doing here?
Yeah. And so that like there was those types of issues of like there's no threat there. So now the game plan totally shifts. So we needed to recognize that if we're not going to be able to make those, like if that's what it's going to be, then we need to be fucking firing. We need to be like letting this
Yeah.
shit rip and
Yep.
stop with this whole like quick out route. Let's see if we can dump something across the middle. Like no, fucking take your shots because that's the only way they're going to respect it. And guess what? Chances are we're going to get one of those. We're going to
Yeah.
catch one of those. Like, just let it happen.
Joe Burrow made a lot of money just throwing balls up, and Jamar Chase and Jefferson and Marshall would go get them. If you go back and look at that season, man, so many balls are just up in the air. It's like, I'm going to let Jamar Chase adjust. He's going to stop. The DB's going to go, or it just didn't matter. It was like, put the ball within a 10-yard bubble of these dudes, and they're going to find a way to make a play on it.
And the minute they were able to spread them out, like there was some instances where they were like, okay, we're gonna drop a safety here and get some coverage. It's like Jaden had his lane and he would bust it up the middle for 20, 30 yards. It's like that's what he does well. But if there is no threat for it, if they can see that like you're not on the same page and this is not going to work out, like that game is over. And that's what's so unsettling about this offense is like this is a blueprint. that everyone knows what to
Yeah.
do, and they're going to be just daring you to open it up. And so, sure, is it going to change? I do believe so. I believe we're going to continually progress, because I do believe that this is a well coached team. When identifying the weaknesses, they can fix it and they can move forward and continue to build and get better and better and better. Starting a game out like this with this type of program, like, this is not going to work. You're not going to be able to get your best version of LSU out of the gates. And that's a coaching problem. Like that we were not prepared for this game.
Yep.
We looked silly. That's a
Which,
coaching problem.
look, year one, it was like, cool. Brian Kelly, taking it, it's all on me, guys. It starts at the top. That's fine. I get it. At some point, it's going to be like, hey, man, we're paying you too much fucking money for it to be it's all on me every time. It's like, I don't want him up there throwing players under the bus. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like, have a team fucking prepared to play.
Yeah.
Guess what, man? We're going to Vegas, and we're going to be the same spot next year against Lincoln Riley and whatever new Heisman quarterback he's going to have there. It's like, be fucking prepared. Les Miles, give them as much shit as you want. They used to run number one defense versus number one and number two offense over and over again to prepare for what Oregon was going to do. And it's like they were prepared walking into that game. LSU was not.
Yeah. No, and that's, Jared A says progression is fine when the 12-team playoff comes, but we don't have time for that right now. And I think that's the biggest gripe that I have about Brian Kelly's mindset in this whole thing. Is he's just like, look, I've got a long contract. I'm going to take my time and develop this program the right way. We're going to win the games that we're supposed to win, and we're going to take some lumps, but eventually we're going to be at the top and we're going to work our way through it. But like,
hopefully we're Clemson in a couple years where it's like, hey man, all this grinding and like everyone kind of making fun of us for being 8-4, 10-2. It's like all of a sudden we're here. That's what you have to hope for.
you do. And I think that is a strong possibility. But the issue is when you have people that can make the plays you need to win an opener, and then you can coast and develop.
Yeah.
Like, do it. And I think that's the biggest problem, is like, you just go balls out against Florida State, put everything on the line against Florida State. And then after that, then you can do your little micromanaging experiments, which I guarantee you it's going to be a totally different team against Grambling.
Yep.
We're going to see, Caleb
It's
Jackson
going to be like last year.
We're
going to be just like last year, where it's like,
we're going to see
all
Stamps.
these dudes were hanging around.
It's like, oh, fuck, Ashton Stamps is a dog at corner. And hey, guess what? Denver Harris all of a sudden showed up on time, and it's a lockdown. It's like, get that shit right all fucking summer, all fall, and go take care of business when all eyes are on you, and then develop throughout the stretch. Like the lack of urgency going into game one is just so disheartening about like all this hype and all this buildup. And like on the other end, everyone that like mattered the most in the building was just kind of like, yeah, we're really good.
You had something to play for. You fucking lost to these guys last year,
Yeah,
and you were just cool with that. It wasn't like one, I talked about it in the pregame show. It's like I would be more worried if we just eked by Florida State last year, won it in overtime. It was like, guys, we were so shitty back then. Like, of course we're going to take care of Florida State. And then you get rolled. That's one of those things you can point to. It's like, well, they probably thought it was going to be easier, but it's like, you had this to prepare for forever, man. Like that's the frustration.
You had it on a silver platter, and that's the deal. Is like you had all fucking season to prepare for Florida State, just like Florida State had all year, knowing that there was a silver platter. Hey, you got LSU. You beat LSU, you're in the playoffs, basically.
Yeah.
If LSU beats Florida State, you're probably the number one team, number two team, all the way until Alabama. And guess what? You lose a close one there. You drop to what, 5? Like you had an opportunity with this game. And that's the thing, is like, we can sit here and bitch so much about how stupid it is to play these type of games to open it. But like, if you take care of business, you're vaulted to the top, and
then it's great.
Then it's great. Right. But like, you've been proven to not be able to do it. So something has to give, and you were not prepared. Florida State was so prepared and made a fucking statement. Finished the game. They played fourth quarters. We were a fourth quarter fraudulent team.
when that was our bread and butter. It's like
Mhm.
every game, we were the more not experienced, we were the more conditioned team late in games, wore people down
We
and
fought it
got
out.
wins.
Yeah.
Yep. It was the
There was
exact
no
opposite.
scrap there. There was no scrap. And then at the
I need
very end, just to define it, you got Zy Alexander on slow-mo and in the end zone getting pummeled. You
well,
got Major
Burns right
Burns getting
before
just
it.
trucked.
It's like that one, I felt bad for him because he was like already kinda knocked down and had to like, I understand why he got trucked, but, like, what a terrible look that was. What an awful look that was.
Awful look
They're
all around.
they're screaming in the end zone while we're picking dudes off the ground. Like, it just it was the hammer and the nail, and we were not the hammer. I
And
do need to
I have to give credit real quick to Florida State, with the hype around Keon Coleman.
he delivered.
He delivered. Keon
Yep.
Coleman is extremely good. He's very good, and would love to have seen that kid stay in state and play for LSU. You know, Johnny Wilson, that big ass dude, in my opinion, is still overrated. He had
Yeah.
plenty of drops. Like you got to fucking cover him better. Like if you get a dude
He
like
wasn't the dude that beat us. Coleman fucking
Coleman
lit
beat
us
us.
up.
Yep.
I do
Yep.
need to take a little bit of the blame because daughter's a little bit over 3, 3.5, whatever now, and been like super amped for LSU. Doesn't know what it is, but was super amped for
Yeah.
the Go Tigers. Like I'm gonna let her stay up and we're gonna watch the game. She starts fading fast. So I'm like, hey, the game's almost over. If we make this field goal, we win. So we at halftime. So we
Okay.
kick the field goal at halftime, go in, we start celebrating, send her to bed. I
You
didn't
woke
have the
her up,
heart.
right?
I didn't have the heart to tell her this morning that the Go
Uh,
Tigers did not, in fact, did not get a
That's
W.
fine. That's fine. I wish I could live in that type of world where like it doesn't matter, daddy. It's we're good. We're
Well,
good.
at least everyone tried their best, right?
Yeah. It just when you it's just tough, man, because like you look forward to college football season forever and
And
it
then you
finally
say,
gets
"Why the
here
fuck? Why the fuck do I want this?"
and then now it's like I don't like if we would have won this game, I'd be glued in right now to Clemson Duke. But like
And
college
Brandon
football right
Walker's
now,
DMs.
oh god. Oh, yeah, I had to refund all my receipts. I had to give them
Yeah.
back. But,
Keep them for when we play them in 2043.
all of that to be said, it takes all of the momentum and the enthusiasm out of you, and you have to literally just flush it down the toilet and be like, "Okay, let's go against Grambling. Let's go against Mississippi State. Let's go against Arkansas." And it's like you still don't know, like, is this gonna be, "Oh, we beat those teams, but, like, do they just suck that bad, or have we
Yeah.
gotten better?" Like, you're not gonna know shit.
No, it's gonna be a while. I would say going on the road at Ole Miss, you'll figure out a little bit more about this team.
Mhm. It's gonna be tough,
So,
man. It's gonna be a hard slate with those DBs that we have, and we need pass rush. I totally understand
yeah.
that. You need pass rush, but if you let them cook and you let them just kinda run around, it's not gonna be good.
In the weirdest way possible, and I don't even know that I even mean this, but, like, my concern about DB, I think, was a little even, like, is a little less now than it was going into the game. It's like we got fucking torched by a first round draft pick. Hey, I get it. But it's like our guys were kind of around a lot and nothing went our way. And it's like maybe if we're playing not as good first round draft pick type guys, we make some of those plays and keep in games. It's like, do I think it's great? No. Am I terrified for next year? It's not like we got a bunch of guys that are waiting in the wings. They just need to develop,
Right.
wait till Corey Raymond gets his hands on them type of thing. It's like, we don't know. We're gonna do the same fucking song and dance next year and try to patchwork the
And
secondary.
the people that are like, "Oh, DB's growing trees. Who cares if Wardell Mack's going to Florida?" No, it fucking
It
matters.
matters.
That shit
It
matters. Like,
matters.
you gotta get the top kids from the state, especially at DB, to play at LSU. And even if it's dude, they're very good, and they are first-round draft picks that we win against, but, like, it wasn't even close, and that was the problem. And even when they caught the ball, it's like, we can't tackle them. It's like they would just sidestep us and run right past us. Like there was no it looked like Derek Stingley against UCLA. It was just like, what are we being coached up right now? What's going on here?
Shout
Imagine
out to
if Noodle Arm doesn't underthrow that ball to Thomas at the end of the third quarter, and we tie it up 24 going in the fourth, maybe we still lose, but much of game. There's a lot of plays where it's a lot different games. If Kyron Lacy catches the ball and turns it upfield, that's a different play. There's a lot of different plays. I
I just
agree with you
needed
though.
to.
It's tough to see the duck. And then there we go. The next comment, Thomas should have caught the ball, right?
Yep.
It's like agree. It's on both of them. It's hard to get in a rhythm when you don't know where the ball's going to be. I understand that. But at the same time, if it's up in the air, if it's down on the ground, like bail your dude out, give him some confidence. Jaden Daniels was doing everything. If he's the starting quarterback that you're rolling with, then fucking help him out. And I get he doesn't throw a perfect ball. He doesn't have a deep bomb. He's not accurate with it. But at the same time, if the ball's in your hands, catch the fucking football.
I just had to pop the chat up there because Noodle Arm reminded me of Andrew Hatch, and it brought me back to a time where we probably felt similar as we do today.
If this offense is executing, it's very hard to stop Jaden Daniels.
They showed you flashes of what they can do. Like, there's no doubt. Imagine me telling you we would have 300 yards in the first half, and you'd be like, "Great, we fixed it. We figured it out." And it's like, and it did feel like, honestly, it felt like the game went very fast with the new clock rules. It felt like all of a sudden you looked up and you're like, man, that third quarter, what did we have the ball? Like, what did we do in the third quarter? We had a punt, we threw the interception, and we had a punt, and then it was just like, oh, game's over now, boys.
I think, the other frustrating point is just you didn't get better. You didn't build on last season. You started over. And I think that's the biggest frustration on offense, right? Like, you knew defensively you're replacing a lot of dudes and it's going to be a building process. But like, offensively going into this game, you knew you did not have time to develop. You knew you did not have the luxury of having a rent-to-win like everybody else in the nation did. You have to go out and play. So put your best product out there. And we did not have our best product on offense. Like, offensively, we looked as if we started the season over from last year, and we're going to try to grow our way back to being who we were against Alabama, right? And what we did for the majority of the season once we turned the corner and it started clicking. Why do we need to start over and have this shit clicking again? Why could we not have built on all of these returners and a returning quarterback that's got all this hype coming in? And you literally look like you regressed. Like, you did not know what you were doing once you got in the red zone, and you had no answer for it.
My favorite DM that I got during the game was when Kyron Lacy dropped the ball, and I immediately got a DM that was just like, Jack Besh would have called that.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I was like, says who? Like, says who?
Maybe Aaron Anderson would have caught it. Maybe Chris Hilton would have caught it. You know, maybe Shelton Sampson would have caught it. Like, can we try somebody?
I know we harped on this a little bit already, but that was the thing that frustrated me more than anything is, like, we played, it felt like 12 dudes. Like, let's call it 14 with a running back. And it's just like, we talked about all these dudes having great springs and how we just got to figure out how to get Anderson the ball. And I agree. It didn't look like he was a lightning in a bottle. It was like everything was like half speed. I'm waiting. I don't want to put the juju on it, but man, did it give a little bit of some Giles vibes of being like, well, the speed of the game is different now that you're not at Texas Tech. And I know he was at Bama, didn't play, but it was just one of those, why can't we play any?
Timid. Everyone was very timid, top to bottom. No, name the position. Even Harold Perkins. I know he was out of position, but like, we were just catching. We were sitting there playing catch. Like, you make a move and we'll react to it. We did not instigate any point in that game. There was no theme that we instilled or dominated or decided to take the initiative. It was just all reactionary.
Also, like, if your fucking quarterback jumps up and gets absolutely buried by a linebacker and that dude like stays with his face in your quarterback's face mask for a good 3 seconds, give them a rock bottom.
Yeah.
Get a 15-yard penalty. It's like we got bullied,
Well, and I think
literally
that goes
bullied.
back to getting in our own heads about certain themes. Hey, you
Yeah,
can't field a punt. Hey, you can't throw the ball down the field. Hey, you're fighting too much in practice, so don't you dare get a penalty. It's like all these don'ts and do's, and they're not playing freely. Like they're worried about catching a penalty. Duke just scored. So
look at that.
just it was a lot of timidness. It was walking on eggshells. We coached ourselves out of this game.
Yeah. All that being said, I still think this team is gonna be good. I think we ran into a buzzsaw. I really do.
I think this team still controls their own destiny. They need to make some fucking changes, right? That we need to get a pass rush, and if that means utilizing the best pass rusher in college football, then we might need to do that. We need to be able to have a stronger side of the right side of the offensive line. Well, guess what? Get your number one tackle in the nation coming out of high school, and let's bruise them. Let's get him in there and let's get him going. You've got a mid-season All-American just riding the pine, eating nachos at home, watching the game. Maybe get him on the field and see if we can make some plays with them. Get your fucking players on the field. Stop with the bullshit about 2 years, 3 years from now, and win.
I wish I would have like saved the picture or known where to find it because there was some tweet. It may have been yesterday before the game, it may have been after, but it was like talking about the blue chip ratio and how like LSU had all these dudes. And it was just like looking at this list, granted, some of them are true freshmen that are highly rated coming in, but it was like none of these motherfuckers were on the field. Harold Perkins was, but kind of wasn't. Jaden Daniels was, but then it was like Emery, Hurd,
Mhm.
Sampson, Sage Ryan. Like it was all these guys that are just like they're not doing anything. They're not making impacts out here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was just a closed book. It was like, "Hey, we've got a bunch of stuff that we can do, but we're just not gonna try it. We're not gonna throw anything out there. We're gonna stick to what we know." And, like, that's the problem is, like, we're sticking to what we know, but we don't know anything.
yeah,
Like, we don't know who we are yet, so why are we not just fucking throwing it to the wolves? Why aren't we trying it? And, that was the issue. There was no sense of urgency to adjust, to throw everything that we have out there backs against the wall like you need this game. It was literally just like oh, we don't really need this game. Like even hearing Brian Kelly talk to um Matt House before the game, like when they're
yeah,
sitting in the end zone and they're just like, oh, kind of like an away game, huh? It's like, wow, they brought a lot of fans. Yeah, well, we did pretty good on the road last year, so we should be fine. Like I know that's just coach talk. They had him mic'd up, and it is what it is. But it was just such a nonchalant, just like
yeah.
we'll be fine. Like no, you're not
We
gonna be
prepared for
fine.
this.
Like, how are we preparing every week? What's the next step here? Because we have a gauntlet of a schedule. Like, regardless of how good or bad Ole Miss is, or how bad Auburn is, or how bad A&M is, they've got fucking talent. They've got
Yep.
guys that can stretch the field. Like, we need some changes.
If
Or
you if if you told me we would roll into Bama with Florida State being our only loss, I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." If you told me we were rolling into Bama with 3 losses already and the walls are crumbling down, I'd be like, "Yeah, I could see that. I could see that." I don't You don't know what we're gonna get. And it's like, we've gotten to the point where Jai Eugene is all of a sudden like, "Who the fuck Mason Smith anyway?" on Twitter, and it's like,
oh
well,
yeah.
what one, he had nothing to do with this, but it's two, he's kind of right. It's like as much as we talk about Mason Smith, we haven't seen him do a ton. It's like
Mhm.
that's not the thing, the flex seal that you're just gonna slap against the canoe and it's gonna be able to float again. It's like
Sham
uh,
wow. It's a
you
fucking
you
sham.
you really just have to tell yourself and hope and pray that Florida State is a Final Four, top 6 team that you just weren't ready for, and you know what to prepare for later on. But it's like that's all you got to hang your hat on because if they're an average team, look
Well, and
out.
I think the Mason Smith thing, a lot of people are mentioning, or maybe they haven't brought this up, but a lot of it with Perkins moving to Mike Backer, you were able to do that because of the mismatch with Mason Smith.
Yeah,
You knew Mason Smith wasn't going to play in this game. Like like those are the things where like I don't feel like we have a grasp on like who we really are. It's like, okay, well, we're doing certain things with our best player because of the pieces that are in front of him, but like the main piece to that puzzle in front of him is now gone. And this is not like a fucking scrimmage. Like this is a really big fucking game. Like what are we doing here? And we saw that it wasn't working from the first drive. So let's make some adjustments here. We know the DBs are going to get outclassed. So let's get some pressure. Let's figure it out that way. I don't know. It's just it didn't make sense. And then the rollover and the give up. Like once there was blood in the water and Florida State was feasting, we didn't try to get out of that water. We were just like, hey, we're just gonna just chalk this up to a lesson learned, and we have the rest of the season
Guys,
to
that's
kind of
on
figure
me.
it out.
That
Like,
starts at the top,
yeah.
okay?
So
That starts with me.
and so it's tough to point certain players out. It's tough to sit here and be like, damn, Jaden looked timid and he wasn't letting it rip, or damn, Emory Jones got pushed around, or Deuce Chestnut was just absolutely manhandled by a fucking giant. Well, like, why did we put him in those positions? Why did we not try to change it once we saw that there was some, like Brian Kelly even saying it, like I sensed it coming out of the tunnel in the second half that we weren't ready for this.
Then do something.
Then what did you do at halftime? Like what
Call
was I don't know. We got to
call a
step up,
timeout.
man. We
Bring
got to
in bring
step
everyone in
up.
the middle. Get in their ass. I know. It was just it felt like we got snowballed. There's no doubt about that. I think we're getting close to getting out of here. So if you got anything in the chat, feel like we missed, wanna double back on, fire them in there real quick. Hit that thumbs up button. I know you guys love that thumbs up button. Hit that, share it with your friend, tell your buddy,
Smash
send it,
the like button.
smash it. You found it.
Oh,
I
around
don't
college
know.
football this week. I mean, there was definitely
Felt like a dud. Shout out Prime.
lackluster.
That was
Yeah,
really fun to watch at 11 AM.
good for him. Good for him. But like people saying that this is a playoff team, it's like you're taking it too far. Like, what do you
Yeah,
just let them have their moment, but don't make it seem like this is a fucking playoff team now. They beat TCU. Okay.
great week
Great
one
win.
story. TCU was a massive, massive question mark coming into this game. Yeah, it's like better than I thought they were gonna be, sure. I thought, especially after watching LSU do it last year, that they wouldn't be as organized as they were. I thought that many transfers going down the list, it's like you're not going to have punt team completely shored up, or like you're going to send 12 dudes on the field. They really didn't. Like that was the more impressive part of the whole thing to me, is that they were really prepared to play, and it
Yeah.
sucks even worse looking at it with the hindsight of what we watched. But yeah, I'm not so sure Colorado's just going to be a fucking jackwagon this year. Like I think they're going to take their lumps.
Yeah, I think Colorado really executed. And that's what I really love to see. And like that's why I was excited for Prime. Was like it wasn't just, oh,
Yeah.
we've got better dudes than you. It's like, no, they played their
Yeah.
hearts out, and they played very fast and executed their game plan. They made the catches, they made the throws. They did great. I
And
think
you can maybe ride that momentum, be like, get all the boys bought in. Like that's something that you can. I just think eventually, they're not a playoff team like that.
no.
That we can
I think
definitely say.
after week one, honestly, up until mid third quarter, I felt like Florida State and LSU were the best two teams that I saw all weekend. Now, no one else played anybody, right? So there
Yeah.
really wasn't a good sample size, but those two teams looked very good until mid third quarter. And then immediately LSU decided to turn it off and became like a top 20 team instead of a top 5 team. So, I Ohio State looked suspect. I was not impressed at all with Ohio State. They looked
Florida, we
slumberous.
haven't.
Florida's rough, rough.
Huge winner after Sunday is Billy Napier in Florida, because everyone's forgot how shitty they looked and they've turned to making fun of LSU. So big weekend for Billy.
Very true. Billy's got a date with Mike Norvell in Florida State at the end of the season. That should be a bloodbath.
It was good to see the tweets of Florida fans coping, being like, "See, guys, Norvell, they tried to run Norvell out. You give them enough time, this is gonna be us." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe, maybe." The
Yeah,
answer to that is maybe.
they also owned the transfer portal. And that's part of the game now. Mike Norvell dominated that this offseason, and he's got a hell of a squad going into it. Bama looked better than I expected. They were playing Middle Tennessee, but they
We didn't
didn't.
learn any. We'll learn Alabama this week. We'll figure that one out, and we'll learn about Texas. Like week two's fun. Like
Texas did not look great, in my
yeah,
opinion. I mean, they played Rice, and they were kind of slumbering around, midday
could
game
that
in
be?
Austin.
Could that be because we were all looking ahead to week two, and we're gonna have some things in our
Sure.
satchel?
Sure, probably, but it sucked because, like, again, silver platter. Like, LSU takes care of business against Florida State. They are the only team being talked about right now. But it is what it is. We have some questions here.
Mostly people were mad about play calling, which, like, I agree. Uh, I think they got scared for the pressure and they went back to things that they knew that they could, that, like you said, that Florida State was kind of like giving them and allowing to happen. And we just didn't make the plays when we needed to, man. There's just a couple plays in that game that swing the entire, and not even talking about in the first half. I'm talking about in the second and the third quarter where it's like we just can't go 6 plays punt, 6 plays interceptions, 3 and out. Like you can't start the second half like that and expect to win. It's like, yeah, the defense didn't hold up their end of the deal. And I've been a madhouse dick rider for a little while. And I trust me, I'm wavering at this point. But it's like I don't know, man. Everything's got to get better. It's like
They have to get better, and they have to get better fast. And that's the issue, is like looking at last year's game against Florida State. I almost feel as if LSU looked better against Florida State last year than they did this year. Even if it was equal, like, Florida State looks way improved. Like,
yeah.
and we did not improve
Yep.
with the same arsenal on offense, same defensive coordinator coming in, and they outgamed us, they out schemed us, they out coached us, and
But
they had the better players.
we can go through every fucking position group. It's like Hankton's. Hankton's looks great on the sidelines. It's like this dude's a no nonsense guy. I what have we shown? What has he shown to be this great wide receivers coach? We drop balls, we don't get open. It's like running backs. It's like we don't know what the fuck we have at running backs. Offensive line, we thought we were, set up and we got bullied around and just poked around. Like, go across the board, steeples, DBs. It's like, what the fuck? We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like it's weird because it didn't feel like there was a ton of like breakdowns and massive blown coverages and
Right.
stuff.
It
It
was
just
just the
felt,
dudes weren't there. Like, the
yeah.
dudes, like, physically were there, but, like, we just didn't have the dudes to match up against an ACC team.
And we didn't
And
scheme our dudes to be in the favorable positions. It was definitely frustrating.
so we've
And
got Saturday the 9th. Go ahead.
until proven otherwise, I'm just gonna say Florida State's a wagon, and we'll see them again in the playoff.
You can still say that. We can still sit here and say we have one more shot to get our revenge on Florida State, and that'll be in the playoffs.
I know it was kind
We
of
have
a
a long
joke.
way to go.
I know it was kind of a joke, and it was like made the headlines of like, oh, ha ha, LSU was going to try to schedule a week zero game for the Mason Smith stuff. Let's get on the fucking horns now. Let's
Mhm.
schedule week zero games for the foreseeable future until the NCAA tells us not to. Let's throw a buy in
Apparently,
before Bama and a buy after Bama. And like, let's fucking, why not? If we're
we
gonna
don't
do
figure
this,
anything out in fall camp. We only figure it out when we get our ass kicked week 1. That's it.
and like
So
maybe it'll feel worse if we beat Grambling 58-3 and then get walloped by Florida State. But it's like at least we'll like maybe no, I don't know. I don't know, man.
no, then you can chalk it up to a bad game and just be like, no, we're gonna get better. Like, look at last week, right? So Saturday, September 9th, you got a decent little slate coming up. Auburn at Cal, Notre Dame at North Carolina State, Stanford at USC, A&M at Miami. Obviously, the big boy Texas at Alabama. Nebraska at Colorado, and then of course we play Grambling.
It looks like Clemson had 4th and goal and missed and got
They
a
got it
field goal
blocked.
blocked.
Yeah.
Is it time to go? Is it time to go?
Let's just settle in
Hopefully,
and watch.
make fun of Dabo tonight.
Yeah.
Can we be the leaders? That does kind of suck. It's like I don't really care. Like I'll be a Brian Kelly guy until I'm not. But like, man, the world is just waiting to point the finger and laugh at him.
That is what sucks about the Brian Kelly experiment is that
The
he can do,
world wants us to fail.
yeah, he can do so well. And then the second there's like a drop of blood in that water, it's like the whole world like,
30
see,
receipts come out.
oh, it's nonstop. It's non Notre Dame is just like, let's go. Like Notre Dame
Told
fans love
you.
it. Yeah. And so that's the problem. And we talked about this going into the game. It's like, you know, we're kind of missing the boat, not missing the boat here, but we're sitting here thinking about Brian Kelly being so coy with the media and confident and everything is so perfect that like if he fucks up against Florida State in this game, you're going to see a different version of Brian Kelly now. And I think he even
All this chumminess is going to start falling flat.
yeah, and so now and I think he even identified that when he says we,
Yeah.
he's really meaning
We the people.
himself. And like when he sat there after the game was like, listen, this is the true, like this is the first true adversity that we've truly faced, right? And so like he's taking into account last season and dropping the ball, dropping the game against A&M and looking like shit against Arkansas and losing the opener against Florida State, like getting blown out by Georgia in the SEC championship. Like all of that was fine and dandy because it's year one, but like, boom, year two with all this expectation, you lose the opener. Now Brian Kelly's completely different. It's like, hey, this is the first test of adversity and we're going to have to do a better job in the locker room and in the coaching staff. Like changes need to happen.
It's not fun to think about. But if you think about it, we've kind of gotten fucking ran over 3 of the last 4 games we've played. Luckily, Purdue is snuck in there because we got bodied by A&M. Georgia, I thought they did well considering, but kind of got bodied by Georgia.
Yeah, bodied.
And then you just get bullied. Like there's no other word but bullying is what Florida State did to LSU. And hopefully that pisses some people off. And hopefully Will Campbell says, you know what? I want to be that bully. And I'm going to bully everyone on this team until they get to do it as they care as much as I do. I don't know. You got to have somebody. You got to hope you have some leaders in that locker room.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. Well, it was a tough one. It was a tough one to get through. I'm glad we got this over with and we didn't have to wait on talking about this. Got it out the way. Brutal. We obviously have Grambling. We're not going to learn anything there. We get to talk about, some of our freshmen.
All you got to hope is that, well, you're going to see Nussmeier. So he's either going to throw a dumb pick and it's half the fan base is going to go nuts, or he's going to sling it around and half the fan base is going to go nuts. And then you got to hope that you're going to see the starting 5 with Hurd and Emery. You kind of want to see that.
We're going to run the shit out of the football. We're going to just run the clock. We're not going to see a lot of long balls down the field, probably like you're saying, until Nuss gets in the game, and it's going to cause a fucking firestorm of why can't we do this in the real games. But I think there will be a point this season where if Jaden Daniels, I won't get there.
We'll save that.
That's going to be a fucking riot whenever Jaden does truly have a bad game. Does Brian Kelly feel the heat enough to be like, you know what, it's time for a change. I'm making a change. Like, when does he break from this whole like, oh, we've got another season of building to go before he's like, you know what, let's just fucking win and I'm going to throw everything out there that I have. Like, when does that point happen? I'm not saying it's Jaden Daniels for Nussmeier for Jaden Daniels. Is it breaking his vow on the Denver Harris development situation? Is it moving Perkins back to, a Jack linebacker, rushing off the edge, whatever? He wasn't playing Jack, but you know what I'm saying. Like, when does he break from his script?
But it's also, it's weird because it's like, so you're just going to crumble up the 2 months of fall camp and practice and everything and just say, well, never mind. Do we just, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing is I don't think he does. I think he stays to the script until it's that second loss before Bama, and then that's when shit gets shaken up. But who knows? It's a long season, and that's what we've learned for 4 years now is that our season is not defined by game 1. Unfortunately, it feels that way every time.
Yep. That's all I got, man.
That's it for me. Over and
Go
out.
Duke.